What is good? We're back. And homeboy is still saying what is good. Can we knock it off already? All right. Me and Big Co back for some roster review action. How's it going, Big Co?
No, we're just, we're trying to get a couple people together to go looking for this what is good guy. But outside of that, things are fantastic.
Gotta get a posse.
That's what they call it. Love the posse. Careful.
All right. So we got a team here. We got no notes on the review. We got Eastern 33. He's got the Cleveland Steamers is the team name. It's a 12-team super flex. Does not appear to be premium. It is start 3 wide receivers though, and 6 points per passing touchdown. Those are pretty standard league for the most part. Other than that, we have a solid team, but I think it's going to be a fun team to review because we've got the 101, the 105, the 201, the 205, the 109, the 110, the 301, and the pop-up ad. So we got the 309, the 409, and then he has all of his picks in 26 plus an extra 2. That's great. We've been doing a lot of these, and we're coming in and we're doing reviews, and more than 50-60% don't have their own picks moving forward, and this guy's team's not even in terrible shape, but he's not ready to compete, but this is like in pole position to kind of remap what you want to do, right? This is the position that you want to be sitting in. You have some parts and pieces, nothing of crazy great value outside of Brock Bowers. So I wouldn't say this is the position. I wouldn't say this is the position you want to be sitting in. I would say that if you are going to be sitting in this position, it's great to have all his draft picks. Well, I'm saying, like, if you're getting a roster review and you're in a remapping, rebuilding area, this is the position that you want to be in. You're in pole position to kind of take this thing in whatever direction you want to go in, right? Yeah. You have pick and capital, and you have, it's not tight end premium, but you have Bowers. So for me, that's like, I have one less position I need to worry about in this situation. Yeah. We're going to hang out with Brock. He's got Anthony Richardson and Purdy. So you probably need a third quarterback, but then he's got Pollard, Warren, Garendo, Lloyd, Damian Pierce, Marshawn Lloyd, Damian Pierce, Cordell Patterson, Samaje Perine, Kenneth Gainwell, and Michael Carter. So 4 or 5 fun pieces at the top there. Pollard and Warren are, startable players. Pollard decent, and then wide receiver room wise, and it is 3 wide receivers you have to start. We got Jaden Reed, Khalil Shakir, Christian Watson, Jacoby Myers, Bateman, Curtis Samuel, Tim Patrick, Westbrook, Akine, Calvin Austin, and Turpin. So Turpin, whatever, Austin, whatever, you could probably cut those guys if you need to moving forward because you got a lot of picks. But you have Jaden Reed, you have Shakir, you have Christian Watson, who unfortunately is probably going to miss a lot of this year, and then Jacoby. So basically, you got some wide receiver 2s and 3s sprinkled in here, right? Some good ones that you're excited about.
Bateman came back to life this year.
Sure. Yeah. And
not walking around, not carrying around like a, early second round draft pick value in his pocket or nothing, but he's alive.
Yeah. So you have 3-4 wide receivers, but they're mostly 2s, mostly 3s, kind of in that range. Nothing you want to lean on heavily. Khalil Shakir and Myers and Reed can all be great wide receiver 2s. Those are wide receiver 2s, especially if I'm 3 wide receivers. Those are the 2s, 3s, 4s that I want to rotate in and have. But your first step is probably looking at a killer at the wide receiver position or 2, right?
When things start working out for you, like you want Shakir to be like your second flex, right? I mean, not take nothing. Shakir, like Jacoby Myers, you want him to be your startable depth. Like you want to be able to say, I got Jacoby Myers on the bench. He's ready for a bye week, ready for an injury, ready to come in and make some noise for me when I need to plug him in. Right the second, like you said, the boom bust Jaden Reed is your wide receiver 1 and co-wide receiver 1. I mean, if you had to set your lineup this week, Shakir is your wide receiver 1 just because out of consistency. But those are guys that you want to be your 3rd and 4th best wide receivers, instead you were saying 2, 3, 4. I want those two guys to be my 3, 4, 5. That's just what we're working with right this minute.
Yeah. Well, let's start through wide receivers. So if Shakir's my 2, Jacoby's my 3, I'm okay with that. Or Reed, and then you one rotates in is more or less what I say. I do need to make an addendum here. It is not super flex. So I'm so used to it being super flex. It's start 3 wide receivers and 1 flex, and it's not super flex. So
Gotcha.
He's fine in the quarterback position. He's got Purdy. He's got Richardson. It's not actually a decent place to be sitting if it's a 1 quarterback, right?
Yeah, could be worse.
You have a guy in Purdy that you can trust and start most weeks, and then you have the huge upside swing in Richardson, and then another pretty big upside swing in Rattler just kind of chilling. So I don't hate that. So for me, this comes down to we're going to take the 101. I'm most likely just taking Genty and setting that and forgetting it. Maybe I would send some crazy offers out and see if I get a dialogue for something insane to happen. But what I'm going to do is then I'm going to take the 105, the 2-1, the 2-5, the 109, and the 110, which I don't know why they're in that order here for some reason. I'm going to take the 105, the 109, the 110, the 201, and the 205, and I'm going to see what kind of work and what kind of players I can get back in those situations. So again, it's not super flex. It's not tight end premium. So, 201 and 205, not quite as juicy, but Warren's probably still going to be a first-round pick, and Loveland will probably still be a high second-round pick. You're just going to lose Shador and Ward in there, so you're basically kind of -2 on the picks, right?
Yeah, exactly. -2.5 on the picks because you're probably that third tight end's probably not going to come into play in that area. I like what you said about just leaving the door open to a Genty trade, right? I'm not actively looking to trade him away, but when in this league, hopefully you got some time on the clock the day before the draft, 2 days before your rookie draft, text all your buddies or however this works for your league chat and just say, hey, Genty, the pick 101 is Genty, and he's on the open for business right now. You can do this 2 days in advance because you got the first pick. Everybody knows it's going to be Genty, right? So you just go ahead and drum up business and see what's look for some superstar offer to come through, and reject everything that comes in to play the first time around, no matter what. But keeping the door open to see what you could come up with is probably a smart way to play it. I mean, not just closing your eyes, pitch and hold, and saying Genty's on my team. This team is, it's got a long way to go to compete. Now, Genty's the most fun pick in the draft, and it's not even close. So I'm saying draft Genty, but see if you can get a king's ransom.
Yeah, no, I agree with what I said and what you said there. So I like that. And then at 105, you're basically going to be staring in the face one of Hampton, Judkins, Caleb, Johnson, or Henderson, right?
Absolutely. 105 super flex or not, you cannot go wrong with your Caleb Johnson or better, just the 5 running backs you just listed. Tet didn't come into play, but Burden, Golden, however you want to rank those guys when it comes into play. No tight end premium, probably backs worn out of the discussion for most people, but 105 is a really good spot to just have you got a line in the sand, no matter what, you got one of those 5 potential difference makers. And then after something happens in the draft, when, DJ Giddens is a chief, or, RJ Harvey's as a 49er, one of these guys that's not anywhere really close to the 105 range now, when that certain running back is, on a team that we love the running back to, you're just going to get richer, and that falls into that 1-9, 110. But the 1-5, it'll be a really nice pick and puts you in that 5-5 startup value range. So if you're looking, Caleb Johnson, Hampton, Travion Henderson's going around the, Chris Olave, Jaden Waddle, Brandon Ayuk area in the ADP. But I just think when you get on the clock, I think you can look at the FFD ADP in your pleasure chest there and go up around, because you're not trading the 1-5 for Waddle or Ayuk or Olave at this point. I think it's worth more than that. I think you'd be able to get, so I think you're going to get that rookie fever, and you're going to, scroll on up a little bit. And obviously our ADP has Superflex in there. So there's a bunch of quarterbacks next, but You could potentially, a Bucky Irving, Rashee Rice. You might take 1-5 and add, the one of those second round picks you got later second, and maybe you walk away with Rashee Rice. All of a sudden, you got a guaranteed wide receiver.
That's kind of the decision that that I'd be playing here. I don't want to make all these picks. I want to either accumulate some more picks for next year with some of these picks, or I want to decide on what I can get for these picks. And I should say that Tet could be in the discussion at 105 there, because he could still be on the clock depending on what happens with his draft stock and kind of how the narrative shapes up around him. And I kind of wasn't including him in that 5 because I was just kind of putting him at 2. But I think that's kind of waxing and waning. Hampton could certainly go at 2. It could be all the 5 backs at 1 to 5, but you still get a back, right?
Well, that's what I meant by Caleb
right.
Johnson.
When you said that, I knew what you were saying. I wasn't in my head going there.
And that's that, and you're not even putting the wide receivers in there. So like between your 1-1, if you get Genty and your 1-5, you got 2 like stud backs coming your way. Now with really no wide receivers to speak of to really be proud of, I don't know if I want to make that pick at 5 and put a running back on my team, but that's a great option to have. And I'm not saying, like you said, before the NFL draft, I'm not saying that I want to take, Tet over this running back or this. I want to see how this thing plays out. But when you said at the beginning, this is a good spot to be in, and I'm like, I don't know if this is the spot you want to be in. Of course, having of the 1, the 5, the 9, the 10, and multiple 2s and 3s in a draft is a spot you want to be. It's just so much fun. Like this is what we talked about last year and 2 years ago. Like when you rebuild, it gets fun. Like your team right now, you earn that 1-1. You have the 1-1, you have your 2-1, you have your 3-1. Like Casey said, good job hanging on to your picks. You knew you weren't going to be good. You came through and you've been highly active to accumulate all these picks. You've made some trades. You got to this point. You got your stud in Brock Bowers, and he's fun. I don't care if it's premium or not. Basically, where Casey was going with this is you don't want to make all these picks, but you can make them as you move around. Like that 1-5, when I talk about Caleb Johnson or Travion Henderson or Judkins are better, like all of a sudden, if Matthew Golden goes it now that he's, run as fast as he is and people are going back talking about how good he is now, or somebody like that, or, Ted or Tyler Warren, somebody falls in love with him. If you're 1-5, it's all of a sudden there's got 2 or 3 of these players on it. Now you trade back to 1-7. If you got 3 guys at 1-5 that you're in love with, then you can trade back to 1-7 or so. And then pick up something. This is an accumulation thing. The last thing you want to do is just go straight down the board and make these picks without trading up or down, because you're just putting so much, you're basically check marking off the equity there and putting a name to them. Whereas if you're at 1-9 and 1-10, maybe you trade back from 1-10 to 2-3 or something. If you're like, I like all 5 of these guys. It's just the same way we talk about it every year about counting the blocks and saying, oh, I like these 3 guys. If you have an ability to trade back a little bit and add 2, because that's what you're trying to do. You're rebuilding here. And every time you can trade back in a draft and let somebody execute on their rookie fever, what are they giving you next? Like, oh man, I'll give you that 3 next year. To you might be in a spot where you can trade back from 2-5 to 2-6, and somebody will give you a 3rd round pick next year. And you're like, well, what is that going to do? Or what good is that going to do me? Then all of a sudden, either A, you get next year and you got a bunch of 3rd round picks, or you can maybe reuse that in the draft at some, now you trade up, back in the day, it was, Casey, I would be like, all right, you can trade that 3rd round pick now, for a Tyler Boyd, somebody that's startable. It would be Jacoby Myers right now. Like you could trade that a 3rd round pick and get Jacoby Myers. You have him on your team, but that's the example of somebody that's very startable. They could come in and give you 12 points a week. And, that's the kind of moves you can make. Having said all that, before I turn it back loose to you, Casey, this isn't a team where you want to just be plugging in the Tyler Boyds and trying to, because you're not going to win. Mm-hmm. So you got your 1st and 2nd and 3rd next year, in addition to another 2nd, so like the goal would be come out of this rookie draft with a couple of extra picks next year, of course, but also not bringing in just a bunch of mid-level 27, 28-year-old receivers that you traded for so you could go get knocked out in the 1st round of the playoffs, Yeah. That's not what you're looking to do either.
Right. Yeah. So not the craziest receiver class to just build out this crazy receiver room. So again, I think I would take Genty. I think I would come through with these picks and try to trade them around. Like you said, you can move around that 109 and 110 you have, and I think it might work out pretty good for you. And we'll see where the buzz on Warren goes. I mean, the Jags are picking pretty high. They just let go of your boy Evan Ingram. Like are they gearing up to take Warren there? They should take an offensive lineman if there's one, but are they gearing up to take Warren there? If they take Warren in the top, whatever that is, 8, 7, 6, 5, I don't even know exactly where their pick is, but Warren gets a lot of love and maybe he doesn't, but it seems to me like in no tight end premium, Warren could be that 9-10 slot. How this pans out, and that could be perfect for you because you don't need him. You have Bowers, and somebody else is going to be salivating over him. So you may be in prime position to really, if you can get a 9 and Warren still on the board, somebody needs a tight end. One of these contenders up here, because you got a lot of contenders in this league. You can see we're looking at Dynasty Daddy here. There's a lot of contenders, and Big Co made the point like the last team in the league is maybe the worst team I've ever seen. No picks, just no hope. Has Drake and McCarthy and Fields, and then other than that, it's just a barren cupboard. I don't know if this is AI or a bot or just somebody's little brother playing. I don't know what that's so it's like
all the
like
teams
you're
are
playing with
loaded.
11.
Yeah, it's like you got 11 teams out there. But go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, so when you have 4 first round picks yourself and the 2-1, so you basically got 5 first round picks. You've taken fun away from other people. So like when you get on the clock at 9 and 10, then you've already made 2 picks. And so that means there's only 4 or 5 people you're on the clock at 9, and there's only 4 or 5 other players that have had a pick, and 2 players behind you before you pick again multiple times. So you being able to trade around, but whether it's Tyler Warren or not, when you get on the clock at 9 or 10, you being able to trade around is going to be like, if you got 2 first round picks, I say you got leverage and you got power if you got 3. Well, I don't have a term for 4, and having multiple seconds and multiple thirds other than just a lot of fun. So be ready and willing to tell your wife, girlfriend, parents, whoever you live with, that come draft day and for the couple days during draft, you're going to be working on your team.
Yeah. No, I'm just double checking here, then making sure this isn't Superflex, because the way some of these teams are laid out, it looks like Superflex, but it does not look like Superflex to me. So,
well, when you get, they put the Dynasty Daddy's got the stars by the starters. So it's got to be, there's no double quarterback starters. So it's got to be, sometimes somebody doesn't have a second quarterback to start, or they were all hurt at the end of the year. So that the last week that they filled out a lineup is where these starter stuff comes from. But they're all 1 quarterback stars. So it is a 1 quarterback league.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure before we got too deep into this thing. Like we were saying, the 105 here, you could make that pick. Certainly, but I wouldn't be necessarily looking to. I'm probably moving off, and Big Co, pointed out to the ADP, and that'll change a little bit as we move forward. But guys that you could be looking at, he already mentioned, like Rashee Rice, Bucky Irving, JT, JSN, Ladd McConkey. Those are all guys that I'd be looking to try to figure out how I can, I'm sending my 1-5 out for all those guys and seeing what comes back. Right.
Yeah.
And then we're going to start adding. We're going to start adding pieces to it. We'll add, maybe I add Jaden Reed to it. Maybe I go 105 and Jaden Reed, to see, because that's the sexiest player on your team, even though he's lost a lot of buzz and the value's dropping on him. Maybe so. Maybe maybe they're pick hungry. So you have options to, be slow playing picks, a first and a third for JSN, Ladd. And I don't know exactly who has what on the teams here and who's willing to trade. AJ Brown's on this team right here. He's got Waddle, AJ Brown. He's a contender. He's got a decent team. I don't know who's willing to give up what. But this guy lost Tank Dell and he's got Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze is a target that you could be trading for. This is a start through wide receiver league. You're kind of in between. You could afford to take a Rome Odunze on, and maybe he'd be interested in, your 109 and Jacoby Myers to fill out a starting spot for him, because and he lost Tank Dell. He doesn't have Tank Dell to start right now. Not that he couldn't maybe start Douglas or Wicks or somebody along those lines, but somebody like this who would start 3 wide receivers they've got a lot of shots and they have Justin Jefferson, but Odunze and Dell are question marks a little bit, even though I love Rome Odunze. I don't think he's a question mark at all, but some people do.
Right.
And, Ricky Pearsall might be great, for this guy.
I would take this. I would watch this video if I'm this guy. I would take the 1-9. I'd send Jacoby Myers and Rashad Bateman for Rome Odunze. As soon as you watch this video, just send 1-9, Jacoby Myers and Bateman for Rome and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just send the 109 by itself first and then see what happens, because you never know. But
well, that's true. You never know. I mean, they might be ready to re-roll, but I mean, getting Ben Johnson should have put a lot of confidence in that guy worried about Rome Odunze, but maybe he didn't. So that's it's a good call. You can send the 1-9 for Rome and see what happens. Then come right back and go Myers and Bateman together to give that guy some depth there. I like that.
Yeah, my biggest thing is trying to slow. You got time. You have a bunch of stuff, picks, and some fun wide receivers that would be valuable to other people as their 3. And I'm not saying you need to give them away, but they could be helpful in depth if they've got 2 or 3 good ones, but then the rest of them are kind of booty, and you're trying to snag one from them. You got a nice replacement level player that you can stick in there that can get them double-digit points. And you could try to get somebody who's like a little bit of like Rome Odunze was a good one because he's a little bit of a question mark in the lineup for you. Since
exactly.
You have to start 3. Here's the Ladd McConkey guy. I don't know if he's going to be down to do anything, but he's got some pieces that he could fill in there.
Let me say something before I forget. Just because it's not tight end premium, when you're in the draft or whenever you're trying to make these trades back and forth and you're looking for add-ons, you can get Isaiah Likely or a Cole Kmet or a Jatavion Sanders in a deal. You can accept a tight end. Just because you have Brock Bowers doesn't mean you don't want Kate Otten on your team. Pat Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith, or Theo Johnson. You want those guys on your team. You just can't be paying up for a tight end. There's no reason to. There's not really any upside, But if you catch one that's down there that's coming up, and I'd be happy to grab. I'd take extra tight ends in non-premium because when you get one that hits, it's so hard to, even in non-premium, the guy that has the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th teams in the league that has to start a tight end every week are still at a disadvantage, because when you got one of those top guys, you're getting beat up. It just, makes it hard, makes it more of a beating when you add the premium to it. So, I mean, don't shy away from adding a Jonnu Smith or those types of guys in a trade as kickers, as very nominal asset amounts in a trade, but grab them if you can. You're just not going after. You're not giving away any of the decent stuff you have you're not looking for a quote unquote good tight end. You got a great one. You're looking for some cheap ones to keep adding on. Like the Dulcich was a great swing last year. Anything could have happened with that Broncos offense. And we know that Sean Payton has used tight ends before. Not everybody's going to be Jimmy Graham, but it was a great swing to try, and apparently Tyler Higbee's coming back for the Rams. And I don't know why he got 9 targets in the first quarter when he came back from his knee injury, but keep him. Don't drop him, and don't give him away for free, because apparently that the Rams love him for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it really goes the same for running backs too. Like if somebody wants to throw you Kendre Miller in a deal,
of course,
don't shy away from those players. I'm just basically focusing on the wide receivers and start 3 wide receivers, and you need a couple of hammers in there. And this is a good running back class. So you can be adding running backs on the picks that you're making, or wide receivers, because there's still guys that we like a lot. There's Royals and there's Higgins and Ao Manor, and if we get a little later, like guys like Restrepo, some fun stabs to make. Noel just had I don't know how to pronounce it, but had a good combine and getting some love. So there are still some, I'm not saying don't take any of the rookie wide receivers. You can be at 9 or 10 staring at Egbuka or Burden golden, most likely you're going to not be. Most likely, you'd be lucky to get Egbuka there, because maybe golden jumps up a little bit, and same with Burden, but or Egbuka, one of the one or two of those guys are going to jump up. Basically 9 works out to be one of Tet, Burden, Egbuka, golden, essentially.
Got to.
So you could be sitting there, and then the next up for me would be kind of Warren sitting there at 10. So you've lucked into a pretty primo spot with 5 and 9 and 10, right? So you could, you just got to be micromanaging the shit out of those 2 things, and then see what's available with the rest of the picks at 2. But for me, I'm doing everything I can to try to build out. I'm getting Genty, so I'm smashing the receiver. I'm smashing the running back room. I got a Hoss. Then I'm going to that's not going to be my primary focus. Not that I won't take it if I can get good value on running backs, and not that I won't take running backs in this draft, because why wouldn't you? It's a great running back draft.
Yeah, that's the key to this is it's a start 3 wide receiver league, and you got a bunch of draft picks in a loaded running back class. So you have to swerve in and out of these cones, right? Like you're driving down the road, there's some safety cones, you're just weaving in and out of them. So if you're at 9 and 10, and for some reason one of these running backs that should have been going already is there, you either A, have to draft them, or B, auction them off to a running back needy team and say, looky what I got. Because for some reason, if you're in a start 3 wide receiver league, somebody's like, man, every week it's tough to come up with 3 wide receivers that I feel good about. Or I have 3 good ones, and 2 of them got hurt last year, so they're going in for depth. So the Burdens and a couple of those guys might be off the board, and you're like, wow, let's look at this running back here. Caleb Johnson's still on the board. You got to take him or auction him off when you're on the clock. And then 2-1, 2-5, like there's the running backs are going to be very, very just worth a shot, really, but you got to continue to try to, take one, trade one, and then when you trade, you probably hope maybe you're getting back. If you make a trade and you're trading back off of a 1-9 or 1-10 or whatever, maybe you're getting 3-3 in the deal. You continue to add stuff. You obviously draft picks for next year is great, but if you get 3-3 in a deal this year, when you get to 3-3, you can trade it for a 2 next year. Et cetera. You got to keep work your way down the board as slowly as possible.
Yeah, and I know you hit on this already, but on a team that I'd be more of a contender approach with, like Christian Kirk hasn't performed the last year and a half, and I'd be going after. But on your team, Christian Kirk, I'm not trying. I might be trying to go take one of my 2s and go get Kirk if I was in a different position. But I don't really want Christian Kirk if I'm in this team's position right now. And I know you kind of mentioned that already.
And I said keep Tyler Higbee. What I meant was don't drop him or give him away in a trade. You should be using any kind of Rams blurb about Tyler Higbee right now. Like that, he's old. He's 30 years old. Like you don't want him on your team. Use him as a throw in to get a deal done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Anything else to add before we get out of here?
No, just enjoy. Like you unlikely will you have an opportunity to have 4 first-round picks again, and the 2-1 and 2-5 and stuff. So have a great time doing it, and see what you can do to come up with more draft picks for next year while you're doing it. Just keep pushing the fun down the road, and try. You're again. Obviously, I don't know when your rookie draft is, but your goal not necessarily is to make all these picks and have 12 new rookies on your team. If you have 5 new rookies that you love and extra draft picks next year and a couple of players that are younger that are really coming along here, it gets you a nice mix here, rebuild this team, and also do it in a manner that which you're prepared for your first round pick next year. Almost want it to be really high again. You're not necessarily trying to win games next year. Right. You're trying to have you're trying to get a bunch of young studs. And if that happens to be more running backs than you should, when you can't fill up a championship roster, you got to embrace it this year. And then you can figure out, there's nothing wrong with starting a bunch of good running backs in a PPR league. When you got to start 3 wide receivers, you're going to need some hammer wide receivers, but and Royals and Higgins and those guys are moving on up. And after draft day, it's going to be, I think there's going to be more love for some of these wide receivers when it happens than people are trying to give them love now.
Yeah, like you go make all these moves, and then maybe 201 Trey Harris is sitting there, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm just gonna take Trey Harris. I'm good.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
you do all this stuff in 205, and you moved around the 9 and the 10 or something like that, or the 5, and you move back, or you get into these situations, and the guys who are picking around you and are in that room are going to limit you to what you can do and how you can do it, and you got to just find paths to be able to do different things, and maybe moving back is going to be the easy thing. Maybe moving up is going to be the easy thing. Maybe acquiring veterans is going to be the easy thing. But you just got to keep working it, massaging it, finding what the best route for your success is. And then, you got these the 301 and 309 and 409 in your back pocket to be adding to stuff. Or, Xavier Restrepo, could be your 301. Noel could be your 301,
all day. At
some point in the second, those quarterbacks will go most likely, and you'll even back out to where we are with a super flex kind of draft, right? Or, maybe you're sitting at 301 and Cam Ward's there, and, whatever, but.
Or you just take Brashad Smith and call it a day.
Oh, heck yeah. So yeah, this is a lot of fun. Again, we've said this a million times already, but you got so much action here that, I'd love to be hit us up, get us involved in these trades, get on the Discord and at me, and let's see what's up. Let's see what we can turn some of these picks into, and which young veterans we can add in draft or before the draft or whatever. But like Big Co said, I want to come out with 2 or 3 probably rookies throughout this, and maybe another shot or 2 on a rookie on some later picks, and then 2 or 3 veterans is how I'd like to, that are good, like young, good veterans. Right.
Yeah. And my last thing, like if you can use 1-9 and your Jaden Reed and this and that, and maybe a second round pick, and potentially walk away, somehow get a Nico Collins or something. Yeah. He's 25 and he might not be the guy that stays on your roster for 5 years, but Nico Collins kicks the door open to be able to package him up in a trade and walk away with a Brian Thomas Jr. type younger player. You got to take, he's a stepping stone player. Sometimes you got to buy the expensive 25-year-old receiver to be able to work your way towards the expensive 23-year-old receiver, Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. All right, man. Appreciate it. We'll catch all you guys next time. Peace.